All right. I made a correction on the, I think it's on line 6 down here. Benjamin, can you go ahead and read that and translate it for us?
Yeah, that was the one last week that we said that Bobby and I had some problems.
I think we've got it corrected, though. I think the word is misspelled.
So
I think I sent that to both of you, the corrected file. If you didn't get it, I'm sorry. Okay.
Did you just remove the extra mu, pretty much?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's 2 extra letters in the word.
Okay. Yeah, doketa hati utoi egenanta homartoloi hati tota epanthasin. Like I said, I had a hard time coming up with anything for this.
What did you get for dokete?
I said y'all think.
Okay, you consider that these are sinners, have been sinners, because these suffered. And remember when Jesus talked about the Tower of Siloam that fell on some of the Judeans? Okay. I think this is a spinoff on that's what it is. Okay.
So can you say that again? How you translated that?
Okay. It seems that you think or you deem that these have become or they became sinners because those ones oh my, I don't know what that word is, had suffered or had died. I think that's death. Had died. Jerry looked at the word up.
So y'all consider or think that these became sinners because those suffered?
Yes. I'm going to have to look that word up. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Epanthasin is from
Pasco.
Pasco is I suffered, so because they had suffered.
Yes, perfect active.
Yeah. And I had it right. They had suffered. Okay. And so it's third person plural, perfect. They had suffered from Pasco. Okay. Let's skip and go to the next lesson now. And we kind of introduced this a little bit last week in our introduction to it. And it's gotten too large. I'm going to have to reduce it. That'll work right there. We're looking at the pluperfect tense. The old English grammar books used to talk about a pluperfect tense in English, but they kind of quit using that term. The pluperfect is the past perfect tense, pretty much the same, similar at least to our English past perfect tense. It's made from the fourth principal part from the perfect stem, And if the perfect had a kappa sign, the pluperfect will have it. So it's going to follow along. If whatever word required a kappa in the perfect, will I have a kappa in the pluperfect? And the difference in them, if you'll look down here below, we'll look at this in just a minute. But the connecting vowel is epsilon iota A, and the endings are the secondary endings, right? In addition to the reduplication, and I'm going to highlight it down here so you can see the reduplication. I don't know what that. In addition to the reduplication that I highlighted there, we have an augment at the beginning. So our augment. So the reduplication would be the mark of a perfect tense, and the augment would tell you that it's in the past tense. So it's a past perfect. So it's just like the perfect, except it has a reduplication, or it has the augment, I'm sorry. So when you look at it, it's going to look a whole lot like it, except it has an augment on the front of it. Usually an epsilon, could be an eta, depending on what the first letter was. There's some rules for that. But right here, I had loosed. And what this is, and we'll look at it here in just a minute, but what this is, it looks over in the past and picks something up in the past. And it was true in the past and will continue to be in the past. For some period of time in the past, it was true. It's not guaranteed it's true now. Now keep that in mind. It's not a guarantee that it's true now. It's only saying it was true in the past and continued for some period of time in the past to be true. And this, I believe, is one of the keys to explaining a problem in the 7th chapter of Romans. We'll look at that perhaps next week after we've gone through this a little bit more thoroughly. Okay. All right. Notice we don't have an infinitive for it. The infinitive would be accomplished, and the structure of the infinitive would be accomplished. Remember, infinitive won't have time in it. So the pluperfect infinitive that would go with it would be the perfect infinitive. So we don't have a pluperfect infinitive. So that's why there's not one here. Remember, the imperfect tense didn't have an infinitive either, because its infinitive would be the same as a present tense infinitive. So present infinitive covered both of those, both the perfect, both the present and the imperfect. And right here, the perfect infinitive would cover the pluperfect as well. Any questions there?
Question.
Yes.
So in that first paragraph, it says the augment is usually dropped in the New Testament.
Well, yes.
So how do you determine the difference between perfect and pluperfect?
They will have a little bit different ending, I'm sorry, right here, than the perfect. The endings right here and there. If you go back and compare to the perfect, these endings are a little different.
Gotcha.
That's how they're going to tell.
And then one more question, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So how do you translate to English the difference between the perfect and the pluperfect?
Okay, the pluperfect was, he was being, Abraham was being the husband of Sarah in the past. He was being, or he had been and continued to be for some time, or the results continued. It's not the same as the imperfect was being, but well, I had come right here is an example of this. This is from Echomai right here, and I had come. So here we have here, I had loosed, you had loosed, he had loosed. And so the loosing occurred in the past, but it's not necessarily continuing today. That's the difference between it and the perfect. If it were perfect, and he said, I had loosed, and he had the perfect tense, it would have been loosed and it's still loosed. Whereas the pluperfect, when the loosing occurred, and we're not guaranteeing it's continuing now.
Right. I think I understand the difference. I think I just like there for loosed, it says I had loosed, but that's the same translation as the perfect.
Yeah, that makes it harder. It's harder to put it in English.
Yeah.
It's one of those problems. And that's where we get into trouble with the one verse there, and it's pluperfect there in the 7th chapter of Romans. I'll get to it later. Try to do that next week. But we'll try to, well, after we've gone through this, perhaps we can make more sense out of that verse. It really, the pluperfect tense really makes it real clear what he's talking about. When Paul talked about himself, apparently about himself, okay? But, and I had gone or come, this from Erchomai, and Eluthan, I had gone, or I had come, you had gone or you had come, and he had gone or he had come. Eluthaman, we had gone or come, Eluthaite. You had gone, Eluthason. They had gone. And again, there's no infinitive. All right. Here's what he tells us about the meaning of the pluperfect. Now, the file that I sent you on lexicon and grammar notes talks about the pluperfect and has several other writers how they explain it. And the beauty of this is we get it in a little bit different words from several different authors. And they're saying essentially the same thing, but maybe with a little bit different wording. That will help us as we look at it. It expresses a state or condition following a completed act in the past. Completion being affirmed up to a point in the past. And I think when we look in Romans 7, it becomes real clear. And that's the problem with explaining that verse, because people get some wrong impressions from it. But it's pluperfect tense. And so we'll look at it next week. I will email you and tell you what verse.
I don't know. I don't know if it's me, but I think the audio just cut out. I can't hear anything, and it keeps muting my microphone.
Now you can probably hear me.
Now I can hear you, but yeah, it keeps randomly muting my microphone.
Something muted my microphone too. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. I'll go back to the meaning of the pluperfect. The pluperfect expresses a state or condition following a completed act in the past. Completion being affirmed up to a point in the past. All right. In John 4:8, Epilelelutheson, in John 4:8 affirms that at the time Jesus spoke to the woman, the disciples had gone away to buy food. The pluperfect relates to the perfect as the imperfect does to the present. It is a past perfect. So that's the closest we can get in English. It's past perfect. And that helps a little bit to explain what it means. This tense by nature of its meaning is not as common as the perfect. It only occurs 86 times in the New Testament. I added that to the book. It's used most often in the New Testament in the Gospel of John. John uses it repeatedly, much more so than the other writers. But it is found in some other places. 86 times is a bit rare, but it's really helpful in explaining something. In indirect discourse, where the original tense is kept in Greek, the pluperfect of the English will be represented by the perfect in the Greek. Right? So English, there's an intensive pluperfect. Many perfects accent the durative idea in such a way as to become practically present in meaning. And we take the perfect tense oida, which is I know, and by portha, I am confident, that tethneka, and I am dead. I have died and I'm still dead. See, that's perfect. Estaka, I stand and still stand. So the pluperfects of such verbs as would be expected are imperfect in meaning. So, right? Now, that's what he's telling us. So it will function like the imperfect. Learn the second pluperfect of oida. This word is used a fair amount. Look at the places it's found. We have it in Romans 7:7, and we can look at that. We'll look at these verses perhaps later, but it would be good to maybe take a look at these verses. And I've got Romans 7:7 already translated, and I can look at some of the other ones too. But these are pluperfect. I knew I was knowing in the past and up to a point in time. And so I think Romans 7:7 is what we want to look at. Here's some more places where it's found. So we have listed here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the approximately 60 passages. Plus we have the passage in John 4:8 mentioned. So he mentioned about 9 out of 86. About 1 out of every 9 passages where it's found are actually mentioned in this file. That'll help a bit. You can look at some of those right there. Any questions? All right. Hey, Dane, I knew I was knowing. Hey, Dace, you knew or you were knowing. And in the past. Hey, Day, he knew. Hey, Damon, we knew or we were knowing. And he says it functions pretty much like the imperfect tense. In date, you knew, and they dason, they knew, they were knowing. Right? We have these other words here. Now we'll look at them later, but let's look at our vocabulary right now. We're getting pretty close. We'll have to, about 10 or 15 more minutes, we'll be through. On Corral, I depart, I withdrew. Now I can see how that could function in the pluperfect tense, because I departed and withdrew, or he departed and withdrew. Epigenosko, I know clearly, and this is know something very clearly. It is a stronger form than, I'll put a break in it right there. Gnosko. It's stronger than gnosko. It's to know more fully. And so kind of keep that in mind. So we know more fully. In Peter's writings, his 2 epistles, I think particularly in the 2nd Peter, he has these 2 words contrasted. So there's a contrast in his writings between gnosko and epigenosko. And our problem is our English text translates them both the same way. We kind of miss the point there. But this is a word that could fit in really. I had spoken in the past, and so we could see was speaking in the past, right? A day, it's an adverb already. A dane, pluperfect of oida, I knew. So you're going to see it down here in this. Optasia, and probably an optician. This word probably comes from our English word optician, optometrist probably comes from this root word. Piazzo, I seize. And so it could be he seized him and he seized him and held it for a while and he's not holding him anymore, see. So that would fit in. Nigh, yea. This is a strong form. Yea is more stronger than just yes. Okay. So kind of keep that in mind. It's used in the United States in usually in like Congress and places like that we use those words. It's a strong form of yes. Osea in the evening. Soon tethemy, I place together. Middle, I agree. And so I place together. Soon is with, and tethemy is the setter place. Peyron, beyond, on the other side. Usually it looks to the east. To the Jews, they would look to the east. Beyond the Jordan would be over on the east side of the Jordan. Although the word beyond itself, it doesn't mean east in Greek, but it did in
You just got muted again, I think. And I keep getting muted as well over and over again.
I don't know what I was doing then.
Is there a keyboard button or something you're clicking?
Is there a what button?
Maybe a keyboard button if you're hitting a shortcut or something.
No, I'm not taking any shortcut. I'm just using my mouse.
Oh, okay.
Just rolling, but the roller of my mouse to go down. I'm not touching the keyboard at all. Fine. I'll try to figure out what's going on. I've got another class next hour. I hope it doesn't mess up on it. Okay. Scotia is darkness. Did you miss Peyron? Did it cut off before?
Oh, no, you're good.
Yeah, you can't hear me again. Okay.
No, I hear you. I was just saying, I did hear Iran. You're good.
Okay. Host is this this adverb, temporal particle, but it's really an adverb of comparison. And it's so that, it's used repeatedly in the New Testament, so that, and luo is I sail by, sail, and so when they're given an account of it, Luke might use this word, we sail by a certain place. Probably that's how it's used in the New Testament. That's why they picked it up. Right? Other questions? All right. Now, well, what I want us to do next week, if we can, let's take this text right down here and try to translate it. I think some of it is actually from Scripture. Okay. Martha said to him, yea, Lord, so you can see. And so I think this is right from the text, probably of Lazarus, and probably right out of the Bible. But don't cheat on it. Try to figure it out if you can. All right. Any questions or comments there? Let's just take a look. And well, we got 7 after. I would like to take a look at Romans 7:7 and take a look at it here. I'm going to bring it up. You can't see that file yet. I'll let you get out of it. Get out of this file. Stop sharing. go to Romans 7:7. I'll get into that file. This is the passage that we get into here. You can look at the Byzantine Greek text, and it'll have the Strong's numbers and more information about them. Okay. I'm sorry. There it is. There's your blue perfect word right there. Right there. It ain't. So let's look at how the American Standard renders it. And what we have here. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Or may it not be as better rendering? I had not known sin except to the law, for I had not known coveting, except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. So I had not known sin. And I had not, and it's your pluperfect tense there. So when you look at that, what it's saying is, it's looking at knowing sin back in the past at some time. And they knew it, and it's not saying it knows it now. He's looking at something in the past. And that's part of the key to it. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at that. I can send you my notes on Romans, and you can look and see my comments on it and study it before next week. That'd be all right? Any questions there?
Can I just make sure I understand? So you're saying when he says I had not known sin, at some point he didn't know sin, but then that ended because sin became known.
Yes. I think what he's doing is he's saying that when the law came, the law of Moses came, and he's speaking as a Jew generically, looking back to how that they come to knowledge. The law of Moses revealed some things to be sin that hadn't been revealed prior to that. I think it's looking back at that. But I'll send you my notes. Well, we can look at it a little bit next week. That'll be a good application of it. I think it clarifies this passage. But we'll look at that later, okay?
You think he's referring to the time where he was a child?
Well, that's one interpretation, but I don't think it's correct. But that is a possibility, okay? I think he's looking back at the Jews in general, and he's speaking as a Jew, what the Jews saw, and that they didn't have this knowledge, okay?
Yeah.
All right, let me get back here. I don't know. I lost it. Well, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm having trouble with my file. There it is. I want to get out of this one. Go back to the other file. There we are. I think I've got the file back. But I think it would be good if we make an application or two to these passages right here for next week. So we'll try to look at these passages. I'll highlight them here. Those passages right there for next week. And we could, if you want to, there's some more passages up there in Acts, right up above it up here. We could look at all those passages and make application of them. Why don't we do that for next week?
You just muted again. Now I can hear you.
You can hear me now, sure.
Yeah, it just muted me again. It's almost like when you go back and forth between the document and something else or something.
Well, maybe my mouse is hitting the mute whenever I go across it.
Yeah, that could be. But it's also muting everybody else. There is a way with Skype to mute all participants. I have a feeling that's what you're doing somehow over there. Yeah, it just muted me again.
Maybe they want us. Maybe they want me to buy a copy that's not free. That's a possibility. We may have to do that if they.
That's pretty good incentive. Every 5 minutes, mute everybody.
My email account's doing that. I have a free one, and they're pulling some stunts on me to try to get me to get a one that's got more options to it. Okay. And, so this may be what we have to do here with this. I don't know why it hadn't kicked out right now though. And if I move my mouse, maybe it's messing it up. We're pretty close to. Let's just call a halt to it tonight, and get back with it next week, and I'll play with this a little bit, see what I can do. Now, next week we won't have class now. I'm having surgery. Okay. So there'll be no class next week. I'm having surgery next Tuesday.
I hope it goes successfully.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right.
So 2 weeks. That gave me time to catch up on my